How's everyone? We have the alderman of the 12th ward here, and I think that's a good way to start by just say hello to the alderman of the 12th ward. This project is in her ward right now as it stands, and it will be moving to the 11th ward. We have Kathy Disney here from the 11th ward. So both aldermen, we have an alderman and aldermanic staff here to respond to things. We're here to answer any and all questions that you have about Justice Cannabis and what that's going to turn out to be. Only piece of housekeeping that I'm going to put out there is if you have not signed in the sign-in sheet, I encourage you to do so. We have everyone's email address for an important reason. That presentation that we have here, we can also email it out to you as well. So you'll have a copy of that presentation as we go through. Alderman, do you want to say anything?
Would you mind telling us who you are?
I'm Brian Bernardoni. I'm with Justice Cannabis for today. I did economic development in Chicago for a number of years, so I'm happy to be here and talk about that. Who are you?
My name is Freud Jimenez, but I figured since you introduced me, you might tell us who you are.
Nice to meet you. No, I got you. I'm Brian Bernardoni. Pleasure to meet everyone here today, and we'll be able to answer hopefully as many questions as you have. But it would be my honor to introduce the fighting alderman of the 12th ward.
Hi everyone. A little short, so in case you can't see me, I'm Alderman Annabella Barca, the 12th ward. As Brian mentioned, the project is currently in the 12th ward, but thanks to the census and ward map boundaries, which change every 10 years, the boundaries are going to change in May, which means that the proposed location would then be in the 11th ward. But I'm here obviously to listen, to hear what you have to say. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to come up to me after the meeting, and I will give you my contact information.
Let's have Kathy Disney from the 11th ward representing Alderman Lee.
So Alderman Lee is coming from another event. She does plan to be here, and just glad that you all are here this evening with open heart and open mind to listen to the fine people that have the presentation for us tonight, and we'll just see where we go.
Justice team.
Sure. Hey everybody, my name is Carl Camalucci. I'm an attorney with the Taft Law Firm in Chicago. We represent Justice Cannabis in their special use permit application relating to the proposed cannabis dispensary, which will be located at the property right next door to here. The purpose of this meeting is for Justice Cannabis to tell you about the proposed dispensary on the corner there, tell you a little bit about the company, and then answer any questions that you might have about the dispensary and how it will operate. And if anybody here would like to step in, I know it's cramped, but we don't want you to feel excluded or not be able to hear. So I'm just going to introduce some of the team members that we have here so that you know who they are. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mitch Zabaduk, who's right here. Mitch is the head of real estate for Justice Cannabis. He's basically in charge of getting all of the dispensaries open here and in other states. And so he'll be the one who's really presenting to you about the plans for the site and how it's all going to work. But we also have a full team here to answer questions that you might have, because we know that there's frequently questions about, for example, crime and public safety. So we have Ken Boucher here, who's former state police executive and security consultant, who's able to talk about security and public safety issues if that's a concern for you. We also have Michael from which is a traffic consulting engineer firm. Frequently people have questions about traffic and parking, and so he'll be able to address those types of questions. We have Dan Tosk here, who is a real estate agent who works with the team and can answer some questions about the property itself. Who am I missing that who hasn't already been introduced? Braden Lord is also here. He's a colleague of mine from the Taft Law Firm. So we're all here to discuss the site and answer your questions before we translator too. Oh, we also have a translator too, to the extent that anybody would like anything that we're saying translated. Forgive me, what is your name? Say again?
My name is Ethan. I translate to Mandarin.
Into Mandarin, okay. Yeah. So I think without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mitch, and he will give a presentation. We have printouts of this presentation that I think at least some of you took a copy of. We also have this meeting being broadcast over Zoom so that you know. So there are some participants who are listening over Zoom. They have a copy of the presentation that's being shared with them over the Zoom connection, and so we may also have some questions from them after Mitch makes his presentation. So thanks again for being here.
The Alderman of the 11th Ward as well.
Oh, of course.
Sorry.
Hi, Alderman.
Alderman Lee.
Not at all. Please, if you'd like to say a few words before we get started, that'd be great.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm a few minutes late here. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Glad to see such a good turnout. Hopefully, there's some people that have joined us online as well. This community, I don't know what I missed earlier before I came in.
I'll
but-
just get started.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. So if I'm saying anything redundant, apologies, but at least we're going to cover it. This meeting is being hosted by Justice Cannabis. They are the applicant seeking the special use permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Just so that everybody knows, the way that this process works is that there's not a zoning request that is before me for some sort of change right now. The request that's on the table is for a special use permit to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is a totally separate entity with a 5-person board. So this is one of the requirements for any cannabis license for dispensary. So today is for everybody to ask questions, to push back on things, ask as many questions as you want. This is a process. I do not believe that you guys have a ZBA hearing scheduled yet. So there will be time if you want to weigh in on something. We'll outline the process for people so that you know. I'm here to listen as well and to ask questions. My mind is not made up on anything. I think this is something that was only a matter of time before it was going to come to our community. So here we are. So please ask as many questions as you like. And my experience thus far, at least with the organization, with the Justice Cannabis, has been they're very willing to answer questions. They've done a proactive outreach to several organizations within the community already. So that much I appreciate. So I'll stop talking now and turn it over to whoever's next here.
We want to thank those that came from McKinley Park, from their economic development group, as well as the South Loop Chamber. We've met with a collection of those folks with Alderman Lee, and all the aldermen will start seeing some of the changes that have happened as a result of those meetings. So we've been thankful for their input in those discussions. So pass it back to the council.
Thank you. So Mitch, I think it would be a good time to start your presentation, and then people will have questions, we'll handle them.
Great, thank you. Thanks for coming. For those of you that might have just walked in, if you want to sign up at the sign-in sheet.
Position you over there if you mind, so you're in front of the camera.
Great. All right. So thank you, everybody, for coming. I do very much appreciate it. Let me know if you can't hear me. I'll try to speak really loudly. I'll try to look around. If you want to raise your hand or have me repeat anything, I am happy to do it. For those of you online, hopefully you can see me. Hi. Thank you for joining our presentation. And if you have any questions online, hopefully you can hear my voice online. And if you have any questions, you can ask them to one of the, type them in, and one of the nice gentlemen here that are manning the computers will ask me, and if need be, I can forward the question to any of the team members that we have here that were previously introduced to you. So let me just give you a little background first on Justice Cannabis, on who we are. So Justice Cannabis was founded by 2 civil rights attorneys, which is why we have the name Justice in the word Justice Cannabis. So our founders are all about civil rights and fighting for the little guy, basically. We're not about big profit company. We're definitely about civil rights and doing what's right for our communities that we work in and the people that we serve. We have along those lines, we have a big hire local first initiative. So when we hire, we're going to hire about 20 to 22 employees at this dispensary. The dispensary is located right next door, just in case anybody missed that earlier. It'll consist of about 18 full-time positions and 4 part-time positions. Our average salary across our company is about 60,000. There's room for advancement. We give great benefits. It's a wonderful place to work. And when I say local hiring, I mean local hiring. We will have job fairs at the site that we're going to be having our dispensary at. We're gonna go to the local grocery stores and, put pinups with, hire here and little tear-off sheets for, to call. That's the kind of local, on the ground type of community we are. Also, just to give you a little bit about we've been in Illinois since 2017. We have one of the cultivation licenses that are located. There are 21 cultivation licenses for full cultivation that are in the state of Illinois. Those have been through some mergers and acquisitions. It's down to 17 companies that own those 21 licenses, and we are one of those licenses. Our full cultivation facility is downstate in Effingham, Illinois. So once we get our dispensaries open, we're going to be fully vertically integrated, and we'll be able to supply our own products at our dispensary and sell them there. So our roots are here in Illinois. This is where we're all from. I'm from around here, and so are the founders of the company. I'm reading from my notes here, so I give a fairly consistent presentation to what I'm telling you, to what the folks online are seeing. So the way that we weave ourselves into the community is not just by hiring local, but also by participating in a lot of local community events. That's just the kind of folks that we are. When the pandemic hit, we were sending people down to McCormick Place. We had about a dozen folks from Justice Cannabis, from our corporate headquarters here, that went down to McCormick and volunteered their time. We all pitched in our money, and we were donating food, and part of that whole, I think you might remember there was that big food drive that was centered down in McCormick Place. So that's the kind of people that we are in Justice Cannabis. We are also, if you have local parades, local neighborhood, events, and you're looking for sponsors, we're the kind of company that we want our name out there. We want to be sponsoring those kind of local projects, and that's the kind of sponsorship and support that you will see from Justice once we become part of your community, and we're looking forward to that. Safety and security is the next section in our presentation, and we bring this up because I know that it's a concern for folks. Safety and security is a concern for everybody, no matter what they do or where they live, and there are some connotations and some feelings that are out there from some folks when they hear the cannabis industry. Most of it is, quite frankly, unfounded, and we're here to help and answer some of those questions, and which is why we brought, we brought Ken here from the Illinois State Police, who has done surveys and has pulled statistics as to the effect of what it is. Thank you for joining us. What the effect of having a dispensary in your community. And then, as we said earlier, because I know this is another effect on the community, is what are the traffic effects? And that's why we've got Michael from KLOA, which is our traffic consultant, who did a traffic study to indicate that really, if this were any other use, you would have a much higher traffic count than the kind of use that we're proposing, that we're really not going to add or encumber your traffic at all. So going back to the crime, what we found is what we're going to add to this corner, which is right now a vacant building, is we're going to add lights, we're going to add cameras, we're going to add people, and we're going to add security guards. There's going to be 2 armed security guards on staff during all open business hours. And then when we're closed, we're going to have, we have probably about 35 or 40 high-def digital cameras. They're going to cover every angle inside and outside of the dispensary. The cameras that we use are high-def, such that if we need to, you can freeze frame the camera shot, and the police can use that for identification. Also, it'll be high-def enough to identify a license plate. We will be respecting neighborhood privacy. The camera is going to be pointed just in towards the building. You're going to have to be walking right up against the building in order to be caught by our cameras. But if you do, you'll, wave, you're on the camera. If you come at night and it's not going to help at all. Not only will our lights be on, but our cameras are infrared cameras. So the cameras themselves project out an infrared beam that is, you won't be able to see it with the naked eye, but it's bouncing infrared light off of the subject and back to the camera. And even in pitch black, we will be able to capture a face and identify it. These cameras that we have are all going to be offered directly to the Chicago Police Department. We work with the Chicago Police regularly. What the cameras are a cloud-based system, so that if the police if they get a report, I mean, obviously they're not going to be monitoring it 24/7. They don't care. But it's the same system that you have at all the banks, by the way. So this isn't any sort of new sort of technology. This is currency exchanges, banks, any kind of high security places already have the same system that we're putting in, but I just want to describe the system to you. And if the police will have a login and a password so that if they need to access our cameras, they don't even have to call us. They can just boom, log right in, and they'll be able to access our cameras and help with security as well. The 2 security guards that we have, one is going to be inside the dispensary in our security office where the camera feeds come in, and the other one's going to be at the front checking people in for IDs and available to walk around for any issues. Loitering, just so you know, loitering, on-site consumption is not allowed in any dispensary. Our security guards are going to be there to enforce those laws. And really, being in this business for 4 years, it's not what customers do. It's not like, going to a bar. You buy your product, it gets given to you in a sealed bag, stapled with the receipt on it, and you're instructed. Signs everywhere. Even our cashiers and our registers would say, no on-site consumption is a pleasant, friendly reminder. If our security department sees anything on the camera, or if somebody does violate the on-site consumption laws, we will immediately address the issue, and if they don't cease and desist what they're doing, then we will call the police right away, and that's how we will handle any issues. And I think I've talked about everything on this. So, and really, what our security has done is designed to stop any problems before they start. It's kind of the big dog on the porch theory. Anybody that walks by is going to see that we've got heavy security, and probably best for them to move on to the next spot if they had any ideas in their head. Traffic and loitering, another issue that I want to talk about. Our sales right now, I don't know if many of you are dispensary shoppers, so let me describe the way that the process works on that. 85% of our sales are done online. Now, you can't actually buy the product online because you have to come in for us to take your card or your cash and give you the product. But the pre-order is done online. 85% of our customers pre-order their order either the night before or the morning of before they come in. So when they come into our store, they're in our store for approximately 2 to 3 minutes. The average time in our store across our entire enterprise, and we operate dispensaries, by the way, and I should have led with that. We currently operate dispensaries in Utah, Michigan, Missouri, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. We have dispensaries all across the country, and across our entire enterprise, the average time in store for all customers is 4.5 minutes. Why is it 4.5 minutes? The 15% of folks that don't pre-order online, they tend to linger a little bit. Maybe they're in there 10, 15 minutes. They're talking to one of our bud tenders who are very knowledgeable, who will be able to tell them what kind of tincture they need or what kind of blends they need, whether it's sativa or indica and what they're looking for. But like I said, the majority of our customers are ordering online. They're coming in and they're coming out. So that's important to note for the fact that there's not going to be any lingering traffic issues here. They're going to walk in, grab their order, and walk right out. We also have ample parking if people were to drive in as well. That's another benefit of this site. But the walk-in and the bicycling in traffic is going to be ample and very well served. Excuse me. Let me just give you a little idea of, for those of you that may not have been into a dispensary, what sort of expectations there are, or experiences, not expectations, experiences there are when you walk into a dispensary. First of all, it's important to, sorry if I'm yelling in your ear, I have to talk loud.
I just got tired.
No, it's all good. You have to be 21 years old to enter into a dispensary. So it's not like a liquor store where, yeah, you got to be 21 to buy booze, but you could walk into any Jewel or any, probably any even Binny's, and nobody cards you on the way in the door. If you pick something up off the shelf and you try to go to the cash register, that's where they're going to make sure you're 21. But you can walk through a liquor store and the liquor department of a grocery store all you want, and nobody stops you. That's not the case in a cannabis dispensary. We have a check-in area where you must be 21 years old. You present your ID at the check-in station. The ID is then taken, and what we have is we have a reader that takes the ID and scans the little QR code that's on everybody's driver's license now. It links up to the state of Illinois down in Springfield. And the reason why is twofold. One, it's the most secure verification that this person is indeed 21. And two, we have to enforce consumption laws within the state. And that's something else that you should know. You can't just walk into a dispensary and open the trunk and say, "Load it up, boys." It doesn't work like that. There is a limit on consumption. The state of Illinois monitors. If you are over your limit and you try to go to our cash register, they'll see that because you scan your ID when you go in, and then you scan your ID again when you're purchasing. Or they'll take a transfer of your scan and let them know who you are. So when you're checking out, they'll know that you've already exceeded your daily maximum and they'll cut you off. So that's something else to be aware of. I'm not so sure everybody is aware of these policies within an Illinois dispensary. When you do walk in the store, once you've been checked in, you'll be allowed to enter into the sales floor area. The sales floor area, you'll have, there's wall-mounted displays, there's kiosks that display the packages. Another important thing to note, it is illegal in Illinois to have product on the sales floor. So when you're going through a sales floor of a dispensary, and it says so in little everywhere all over, because there's no point in doing a smash and grab, you're gonna get nothing. You're gonna get an empty box. The only reason why our display is there, so the people, if they wanna say, hey, what is my package gonna look like when I eventually open it up and bring it home, this is the actual packaging that you'll get, but it's an empty package. You won't get your supplies until it comes out of the vault. Once you've made your selection, and you can either, like I said, order it online, which is what most people do, or we have what we call bud tenders that are walking around with iPads and will help you order and help you decide what you want, or we'll have standalone kiosks where you could walk up and self-serve and order yourself from an iPad type station. You make your purchase, you go to the checkout counter. There at the checkout counter, the way that we have it designed is our cashiers never leave the cashier area. It is a secure area so that the vault where the product is kept is in the back. There's a window, kind of like a currency exchange. We call it a dip tray, where you put your order in through the cashier sends it electronically to the back in the vault. The guys in the vault will fill the order, package it up, staple it, close it, pass it through the dip tray. The person from the cashier merely has to turn around, grab your order, hand it to you, take your cash or take your debit card. We do take both cash and debit cards at dispensaries now, and that is how the transactions are completed. See what I can tell you. That about concludes my presentation on security. Yeah, we can stop for questions now. I wouldn't mind giving my voice a rest anyway. So, please.
First of all, we want to make civil. We appreciate the time that you're giving us.
Thank you.
I do want to say that whoever organized this event, if you knew the community, you would know that this isn't the best place for having a community meeting. A lot of people are standing up. It's not suitable for that. And I appreciate the translator. There is some people here that their first language is Spanish. Maybe if you do this in the future, you could bring a Spanish translator, with all due respect. Now,
Thank you very much.
couple points that I want to make. Yes, diga, señor,
Yo
diga.
quiero preguntarle a él qué tipo de research él hizo para que él crea que nuestra comunidad necesita un negocio como el de él.
You know-
What research did you do to like
Identify.
identify this community as a community where you want to dispensary?
No, that we on the need for a
That we
dispensary. I mean, it's a lot of demand on our neighborhood.
Yes.
And how do you know?
asking?
So that's a great question.
I wasn't finished with my comments, but I let him sort of, because he
I'm-
won't. But I would like you to, if you can answer me
I'm
first.
sorry.
I would like to finish my
But
comments.
like you said before start the problem, gotta stop. Do you think that is gonna bring good stuff to our community?
Absolutely.
Now, is that product is being prescribed by the doctors or anybody can come and buy?
It's open to it will be for anybody over 21.
So it's not for medical reasons?
So that's
It's
not
not
medical.
medical,
That
it's
means
just
anybody.
It is, so the way that it works in the state of Illinois is follows. They issued 55 medical dispensary licenses, and the state hasn't issued any more since. If you have a medical card, you can go into one of these 55 medical dispensaries, and you will pay a lower rate than if you go into a recreational dispensary. But medical patients can come to any dispensary. So it's not as if, the majority of our customers are medical customers, but they don't necessarily, there isn't a medical dispensary anywhere within this region.
My
It's in
concern is
Ogden,
having people.
Ogden and Western. They do medical.
Okay, so that's the closest, but that's not,
My concern is having people from another neighborhood come to our neighborhood just to buy your product because you said there are no traffic problems at all, but I've been seeing it in other places where before the stores open, there's a line of 20 people. And how do people get there? By Uber? They should have a car or something.
yeah. So, I will, and I'm gonna let Michael speak about traffic for a little bit. I do wanna tell
And
you,
he lives here?
pardon?
Then he lives here?
Because he lived here.
We all live, we're all local, yes.
No, but like right here in this area. Yeah,
Because we
because
really gotta visit with Amazon right here.
I understand. He's done a traffic study specific to this location.
When they feel in the morning, there's over 20 trucks blocking the street, and now you're gonna bring more people from another neighborhood.
I have a question on your study. Is that an independent study or was it paid by your company?
Yeah.
It's an independent study. They don't
No,
work.
no, no.
Of course I paid for it. Somebody has to pay for it.
What do you think they're gonna say to you?
They're gonna give me the truth.
No.
They have to.
No, so then it's not an independent study, correct? Independent study is you're not.
Sir, these studies are what, he can lose his license if that is not his license to practice, if that study is not compliant. Doesn't matter who pays for it.
The question is it
I
an
heard the
independent
question, I'm
study?
giving you the answer
Okay,
that.
there's no need to
The
get
que-
upset.
the question
You
is
did
it
that to me
not?
over there, you did
I'm
that to
trying
me
to
over
not-
there, and
It's
there's
either a
nothing
yes or
to
no
do
answer.
here,
I'm just
okay?
trying to speak
It's
so I can answer the
either a yes
question.
or no answer. Is it an independent study?
It's independent, but I paid for it.
And it's not independent.
You define how you define independent, but I paid for it and it is an independent study.
If you, ya terminó, mío.
No, yo tengo
No, está bien.
varias solas,
No,
¿no?
he has a couple more
No,
questions,
dele.
but I just have a few things to comment off of your presentation.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned that this is a good idea for the community, in your opinion. You answered me a couple questions. How will this add value to the little kids that are raising in our community? How will this add value to our families? How will this add value to our overall community? And since you mentioned that this is a 4-year history, you've done this for 4 years.
Just me. I mean,
Right. So aren't we being part of something that is an experiment, that is a social experiment? And won't we be paying the price if it doesn't go the way that you were saying in this presentation? My concern is that all the data that you've been giving us, whether it's in the study that they're talking about, or other studies that I saw the tax study that you did here, will the property values here be negatively affected? I saw that there's a study in here. I'm not so sure that that data included there is worth valuing, since it's so recent, and this is really something that has taken off, and there is no legitimate data, because it takes years to build. So for us that live here, and you said none of you that are bringing this idea live in the 11th ward or live in the 12th ward, for us to hear that you're bringing this here without having a record of certainty, then it's really hazardous to the rest of our communities and to the families and to the little kids that live in this community.
Little kids will not be able to go into the dispensary
No,
at
but
all.
they walk by when they go to the
They're not even,
store.
so
They
our,
walk by.
okay, can I speak?
Are you gonna put a
Can
wall
I
or
speak,
something?
please? Our windows are frosted by state law. You are not allowed, you will not be able to see into the windows. We will not have any, the advertising is the most discreet advertising in the industry. We don't have any cannabis leaves or any, references to double entendres on the advertising. It literally, the name of our dispensary is Block, B-L-O-C, which signifies the neighborhood on the block. It doesn't even say the word dispensary. It has 4 letters, Block, and frosted windows. If you don't know what Block is, you're gonna walk right past it.
It's not gonna show us it's a start. If we look up your company.
Well, sure, if you look it up online,
So kids have access to the internet.
Exactly.
they can't get in the store.
Right, but you don't know the people that's gonna come and buy from you.
Okay, so-
Premises are gonna be secured. Once they leave 3, 4, 5 blocks away, there's 3 schools around here, sir. You don't know those, I don't want to.
There's a daycare
You don't
right
know your
here.
clients. are gonna
We have a
drive
couple questions on
5
Zoom
blocks
that you can
away
take
and
if you want,
start
when
your
you have
product
seconds.
Where the kids are coming out of school.
I had one last question. I didn't get a chance to say it. It's towards our Alderman. I know she's got a lot of events coming up. My only question to Alderman Lee, with all due respect, if you could field this question.
Alderman Lee?
I'm sorry.
I have one question, and it's just a matter of process. Since you're here, I don't know if you have somewhere else to go, but my question is a matter of process. Are you the person that will be in charge of approving this, or will it be Alderman,
I am not in charge, and neither is Alderwoman Abarca. This is a zoning board of appeals decision.
So when you said in the opening, I'm a little confused. I'm sorry, maybe you can
Sure.
straighten the record out. That's all
Absolutely.
I want to know is what the process is. In the beginning, when you introduced yourself to us, you said that you're still thinking about this, you're still receiving input. And so it made me to believe that somehow you're a part of this process.
Well, I am a part of this process because I have a stake in the game of being the alderman of the ward.
Right.
So I have an opportunity, just like anybody else in this room, has the opportunity to provide testimony during the zoning board of appeals hearing. Right? You sign up, you get on the zoning board of appeals, we can all be witnesses. I would be a witness like anybody else.
You don't need-
Sir, I'm the zoning attorney. I'd be happy to explain the
I
process
just
for
want to
you.
know if in the end, the decision would be made by our Alderman, or would it be
It will
by a
not be.
panel?
I'd be happy to answer your question
Okay,
about the
thank you.
process, okay? Because I'm the zoning lawyer and I'm familiar with it. In the city of Chicago, any cannabis dispensary or proposed dispensary must get a special use permit. The entity in the city of Chicago that has the power to grant a special use permit is the zoning board of appeals. The alderman and the city council do not participate in that decision. Only the zoning board of appeals does. So after this meeting and after the full application is filed, the zoning board of appeals would eventually schedule this proposed special use permit for a public hearing before the board, at which time the applicant will appear with its consultants and make a presentation similar to the one that we're making here tonight. And any member of the public is also able to appear at that hearing and make public comment. But none of the aldermen will be voting on this. It's a decision that's solely made by the zoning board of appeals.
I have a question for Alderman Lee. Alderman Lee, could you name 3 benefits to the 11th Ward and to the McKinley Park area that this dispensary will have?
Steve, I'm not gonna answer that question. I'm here to listen, just like everybody else. So
Yeah.
you've got those questions. I
and we
suggest
have-
you ask the
I have
people.
one.
I
that
can
are-
answer.
Well,
We have a couple of questions via Zoom as well. I think some
Thank you.
people have been waiting patiently to
Yeah.
ask them. Adriana and Mark, are you there? Oh,
Thank
wait 1 second.
They-
Sorry, Adriana and Mark, can you chime in one more time?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, okay, great. You might just have to speak up a bit into the mic, but then go ahead and ask your question. We can hear you.
Okay, so I wanted to begin. I wanted to ask where you guys got the idea of opening in McKinley Park. Why was this location decided upon?
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna bring Dan up here. Dan is, we're a team effort. Dan's with Mid-America, one of the largest brokerage firms in Chicago. And we have hired Dan to help us with sourcing our locations and determining, you know, on a big map where it's good to be.
Well, aside from the real estate standpoint, and aside from the zoning, and aside from, you know, what margins would be good and how far you guys are from your other locations, aside from that, looking at McKinley Park as an actual location, as an actual community, we're a humble community of working families. I myself own a small business in this community, and it's offensive that a company who is blatantly selling what, I mean, I guess is more acceptable now, but is blatantly a drug, are selling it in a community where there are children, which people have mentioned before. I grew up in this community. I have siblings in this community. I know friends and family in this community. I've lived here my entire life. It is unfair that something, you know, as commercial and as, you know, like you said, it's an enterprise. What is your benefit of opening just another chain of something that is not going to benefit anyone here, and in fact bring people from outside of our neighborhood into our community? And you know, it also goes with the fact of, you know, violence and everything like that. And you can go ahead and answer all those questions. Like, we're going to have 2 security guards.
You're asking so many questions.
Adriana,
It's hard. It's
Okay,
hard
well then
to-
let's answer the.
Yeah, can you give me one at a time, please?
No, I'll take a couple, just to follow up on several of the questions. Just to add to what Carl said, the site by the city's rules needs to be C1, C2, C3 zoning, very restrictive in the city. The city gave a lot of thought to where that zoning would comply. This parcel is a C1. It's one of the only C1s in the neighborhood. That's why I found it, number one. Number two, my job for Justice Cannabis is to not go to River North, to not go to Lincoln Park, to not go to Michigan Avenue where all the big boys are going. We're supposed to go to underserved areas and find locations where we can add value. How are we gonna add value? Here's one example.
I don't see a
Well,
value.
excuse me, here's one example, and this goes to the kids as well. My son, and this, I don't live here. I live in Clarendon Hills. My son is autistic. My son's been using cannabis oil for 4 years for seizures. He had 2 seizures that were life-altering to my family. We went to the medical professionals and said, do you mind if we double down on our cannabis oil regimen and don't take anti-seizure medicines? It's been 4 years, knock on wood. My son takes anti-seizure meds every day. He's 14, he's a kid. I have his license as a medical caregiver. That's one kid whose life has changed forever, positively. And in my community, just like this community, there would be, by the time it's all over, there's gonna be 100 examples of autistic kids that are taking the
But
medicine.
they was given by a doctor.
No.
They was given, the doctor.
Oh, no, I have a medical, he has a medical card.
You still have to come to the
This guy wants
dispensary.
to bring people- Now,
No,
let me tell you why you
but
wanna.
no, okay, can I finish my point, sir?
Let me tell you why you wanna open your business here.
Don't,
Because this is a secure neighborhood. Why you don't take your business down south where it's 100 of buildings you can buy? Because you don't put at risk your business. You just want it here because it's a safe community, but we don't want that.
Can I just say, I think a lot of these comments are suggesting that somehow Justice Cannabis is targeting the neighborhood for a bad reason. Let me just finish. Justice Cannabis is actually seeking to open locations throughout the city in many different types of neighborhoods. Some are, higher income neighborhoods, and others are more working class neighborhoods, all different types of backgrounds demographically. There's no intent to target a neighborhood or to only locate dispensaries in certain types of neighborhoods. And part of the misunderstanding here, I think, is that some people have preconceptions about cannabis dispensaries as having a negative impact on the neighborhood, when in fact, there's lots of research from throughout the country that shows that cannabis dispensaries, when they open, have either a neutral or positive effect on things like public safety and property values. Many of the things that people are concerned about because they have a reflexive reaction to cannabis, not being familiar with it, such as people loitering in the street or kids being influenced by it, do not occur. And Ken is here and he can speak to that in more detail.
And then
Okay.
Well, I think we'd like Ken to discuss this in more detail.
We want to answer the question fully.
Mark, we'll recognize you
Okay, well-
directly after this.
You'll have a chance.
You'll have a chance. Give us a
Ken is our
minute to
security
reply.
consultant. He's
This
gonna
is
speak in,
directly to- This is not security, this is directly to your question.
okay?
I like the justice theme, I like that theme, you're looking out for the little guy, that's really good. Let me ask you a question. How many cannabis dispensaries have you opened up in Winnetka?
We're opening one up in Northfield.
Well, Winnetka actually,
Winnetka is banned. It's
not permitted.
It's not permitted, but it's permitted in Chicago and it's permitted in Northfield, and I'm opening in Northfield.
But don't you think,
I'm opening 2 blocks from Winnetka.
don't you think that this community should have the same rights as the people in Winnetka?
They came also. We had a public hearing in Winnetka, just like we had a public hearing in Northfield, just like we had a public
So
hearing
we're
here.
opposed to it, then you're still gonna go through it?
Sir, first of all,
Because we are.
clearly, you've made your point clear.
I'm
It
just
is,
saying,
it is
that's
a
a valid
very,
question.
very large ward. And
Excuse me.
there are thousands of people in the ward, and we need to consider that we serve and respect the opinions of everybody in the ward. And we want to hear you. Well, that
Speaking,
doesn't mean that they don't have an opinion.
speaking of that, I think we're gonna recognize one more person in the Zoom
Yep.
who's been waiting a very long time. Mark, do you mind asking your question?
No, can I just make a comment? I'm a
Yeah.
former alderman in Chicago, and I know Brian Bertoni real well. So Brian, I just want to give you a shout out and say hello to you. I saw you in a video. You stopped there earlier. And I want to commend the people who actually went there tonight, because it is a horrible, horrible space. I know maybe you guys were challenged, but if you really want to do a community meeting, it's a terrible thing to do on a Monday night in February in the middle of winter in a small space when we could have maybe did it at the library or the field house or somewhere else. And I'm not sure if Alderman Lee is still there. She's still there, or somebody from her office.
We tried to do it in a place where we would have both wards recognized.
Yeah, let me-
It's very challenging.
Let's speak to that because it's come up a couple of times. As you know, the district maps in the wards are changing. And we got differences of opinion from the city of Chicago about whether our community meeting must be held in the current ward or in the ward that will take effect this spring. And this property happens to be located in both wards. So by holding the meeting at this property, we were able to satisfy the requirement that the meeting be held in the ward, whichever ward is used by the city of Chicago to determine whether the meeting was held in an appropriate place. So we recognize that the space is small. We appreciate everybody's patience. But this location assured that we could satisfy the legal requirement of having the meeting in the ward in which the dispensary will be located.
And I think just to make my point, to speak to what Alderman Lee said earlier, when she said, hey, this is coming, I guess it probably is, right? And I think what people are opposed to is not that it's coming, but the location is coming too. 35th and Ashland is probably one of the busiest locations in McKinley Park. If you were going like the 39th and Iron and the industrial track, nobody would be opposed to it. But, and I know there's no schools within 500 feet, like there should, like you're following the law, right? But there are 3 grammar schools within 3 to 5 blocks. There are full capacity. There's a McKinley Park Library just a stone's throw away that kids are going to pass by every single day. And I think we're just coming out, and I know some people say, hey, it's a vacant piece of land. At least we can do something with it, right? But we're just coming out of a pandemic. Amazon just moved across the street. There's help is on the way. ComEd's right down the street. Help is on the way. There's an aviation school right down the street. Help is on the way. I think we can do better in terms of economic development than the dispensary. That's my comment. I appreciate you guys letting me speak. And I think we can do better than that. I know when it comes.
Bringing people to the neighborhood to shop and bring foot traffic and bring dollars to the neighborhood.
Oh, and I think when it goes before the zoning board of appeals, I think there'll be a lot more people that will come and speak.
Can I ask a question? We have one more question
Okay,
before you.
okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
First of all, I've been in this neighborhood for many, many, many years, many, more than you people can count, okay? And I agree, cannabis is wonderful for people who are ill and they need it, okay? I know people that take it, God help them all, but he touched on so many good areas. The schools, we want to bring more people in here. We don't want a place
where cannabis is going to be sold, where our children can get at it. And my main concern, why we were not let this sooner? Why was this under the table for so long? And you can look around. You can look around and look. And if there were people that knew about it, well, then there was only a small minority that knew about it.
This is why we're having a community meeting.
Well, you don't have a community.
It's not under the
meeting.
rug. We're bringing it right in front of you.
Well, after it's a done deal.
It's not a done deal.
Well,
Nothing's been
you know
approved.
what?
It is, because before when they wanna open something, they used to mail
Yes,
everybody.
we
That's what
always
now-
got something through the mail notifying us, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. We have not heard one word about this.
Well,
There are other
you must have
things
heard
go-
about this because you're here.
Well, yeah, because I heard about it, because I investigated about all this.
If I can just.
And I did the investigation
So-
myself.
If I can just respond to the notice issue. According to the Chicago zoning ordinance, before you can have a zoning board of appeals hearing for a special use for a cannabis dispensary, you're required by law to provide written notice to all owners of property within, I think it is 250 feet of the proposed location, to have this community meeting, which is exactly what we did for this meeting. And notice will go out again to all of the people who live within 250 feet of the location of the public hearing itself. It's cost prohibitive. That's the.
Does that make sense? I know you're following the law, because you are following the law. I don't
Yes, we
dispute that.
understand
But
that.
listen, what the point is being made is that 250 yards, 250 feet, it does not cover the area of the people that will be affected. To all those families that are against it,
Now
they
we're
really
business
don't have an
like this.
opportunity to have notice.
No special use permits have ever done a mass
So we
mailing
can do
to
better.
an
We
entire
can do
board.
better, is my point.
That could be a city of Chicago issue, but
Yeah.
that's,
As an
that's,
applicant,
We're telling you we're against it.
as an applicant, first of all, Ken never got to speak about some of the public safety issues, which I think would be important for everybody to hear. So if we don't mind letting Ken address that, and then we can move on to some other.
I'm gonna go here so that I'm my back to half of the group. I think it's important, I wanted to come by the nicest people. I think it's important not to, I wanna say this because I don't want you to think I'm discrediting what you believe and what you feel, because they're really important things. But what you believe and what you feel are going to happen have not shown to be true. And now there was a comment made earlier, and I don't know who made it, but it doesn't matter, but that we're making decisions on something that's so new, we don't understand the ramifications. Well, I used to believe that. And I could tell you that I'm not from the Illinois State Police, as Mitch said. I spent 25 years there, I retired, I was a colonel at the state police. I joined a company that's a security risk management company, and we build security programs for corporations and businesses. And in 2013, we also do a lot of law enforcement consulting. For 2013, I was the acting chief in a large northwestern suburb when medical marijuana started to be discussed. And these same issues came out, and everyone talked about them and said, this is really bad, it's gonna happen. And like many of you, actually like most of you that we've heard from here, I went back to what I know. I mean, I spent a lot of time. I oversaw the Metropolitan Enforcement Group, which did narcotics enforcement for all of Cook County. I didn't want to see medical marijuana come here. They didn't know what it really was going to happen. I really didn't. But what did I tell this suburban community? You're going to get killed. Your law enforcement's going to be buried. This is going to cost you a fortune. If someone wants a license here, put a special tax on them, $100,000 a year for public safety impact. And early on, that was paid. And the city, in the first 4 months, reimbursed every penny to the 2 dispensaries that opened because it didn't have a single impact. Now, fast forward again, so then our company built security plans for the dispensaries, for the medical dispensaries. And we've been in this business for a while. So since then, I have been very active in staying on top of research on the studies, and it's not new. I mean, we have dispensaries, states with dispensaries that go back 28 years. So there's long-term stats. Now, in 2013, I went to Denver, and it reinforced everything I thought. I mean, it was like a really It's like some of our really bad neighborhoods where we have a lot of drug addicts on the corner, it didn't make you feel good. But that hasn't been replicated anywhere but Denver, and Denver doesn't look like that anymore. Because it was the original push that happened. What we know now is that, one, this doesn't affect your children. You could say that you don't want it because you don't want your kids to see it, but the studies show, one, that it has no impact on cannabis use.
Let me tell you something.
That's what we get too derailed. Let me go through the points and I'll answer any of your questions, okay?
Long-winded, a little long-winded, a little long.
There's
But you talk about studies and you don't.
Let him speak, please. Let him speak, please.
I'm gonna give them to you. When you all signed in and you're gonna get a copy of the PowerPoint.
And anyone that
you're also
hasn't
gonna
signed
get-
in,
You're also gonna get my letter to the zoning board that outlines dozens of studies, empirical studies. They have to be based on data. They have to be shown, and they're from both sides. There's a couple of them on there from the people that have been supporting this for decades, and there's a lot of them from people that don't. But most of them are from universities and places that look at it from the point of view is how do we figure out what the truth is? And the truth really is it doesn't have an impact on crime that's negative. It actually, in many places, the only impact it shows on crime is either a null impact in that it didn't change because of the dispensary, or two, it improved crime areas. Now, I don't think you're gonna see improvement here because what you don't have is you don't have a desolate corner here that's bringing in crime.
I don't see not even a graffiti on that corner.
But
And it's been
you won't see it,
for
you
years.
still won't see it. You're gonna see a very nice facility that doesn't have queues outside. Everything takes place inside. It looks like an Apple store.
And very nice people coming from the other neighborhood too.
No, I'd like to
Let me
address
tell you this.
that. No, I'd like to
Years
address
ago-
that. People don't
years
come.
ago,
You're
when
wrong.
they
And
tried
they have dispensaries near their
years
neighborhoods.
ago,
They're not
when
gonna
they
pass a
make
dispensary to come to
cannabis
ours.
legal, they said the same thing. There won't be effect, there won't be, look at the news right now. Just look at the teenagers right now.
It truly has nothing to do
Because
with
they're
dispensaries.
more easier to get.
No, it's not.
They
No,
just can't get somebody
cannot
else
get
to
it.
get it
So,
for them.
okay, so I'm gonna explain something briefly. It's also shown in the documents that you'll get. First off, look around this room. This is a picture of who comes to a dispensary. It's not young kids. The dispensary sells cannabis that is processed like medicine. It costs anywhere from 2.25 to 3 times what street marijuana costs. Kids aren't coming in there to buy it. First, they can't. Second, they wouldn't if they could, because it's too expensive.
Inside of the dispensary, you don't know when the people leave, if they're gonna go 5
Yeah.
blocks away.
It's too
outside of
expensive.
school and
It's,
wait.
This is an
No,
important
this isn't.
point.
We do. We do know that. We do know that because one, it's
not
very
gonna sell it.
expensive, and two, the people who are buying this aren't buying it to turn around and sell it. It makes
I
no
tell you
sense.
what, I don't know.
Say, hey buddy, buy me a bottle of wine. They'll do it. They can do the same thing with
Exactly,
me.
and they're
So,
happy,
and there's,
they're happy.
no, they haven't. There's
Oh, my
no
God.
evidence that this is
Say that
happening.
If I-
Nobody's gonna come
if
to
I-
you and say, oh, this is what
So-
this is what we do when you
Well, you,
sell it.
If I can jump in here, there's 2 ways you can buy cannabis in Chicago. One is on the black market on the street, and one is in a highly regulated dispensary that is very safe. The cannabis that's sold in a dispensary is subject to very high taxes and is much more expensive, as Ken was saying. Anybody who has bad intentions and wants to hang out in the street and smoke and do bad things is not going to go to a dispensary because they can get it for a third of the price from somebody standing on the corner. That's happening already. It's been happening for years. This provides an alternative for people to do it safely and legally without standing on the corner and without causing trouble.
Do it somewhere
And
else.
that's the difference in between what you've
That doesn't
been describing.
affect
Go ahead,
it.
sir.
I had a question for Mitch, actually. I had a question for
Shows
Mitch.
the people that you're expecting.
No.
we have a couple,
I mean, if
not-
you're selling
never-
candy, then why do you need to
The
have it
state law
on guard?
requires them to have the guards.
we have a couple
It's
folks
like
that have been
the
waiting
law-
for questions.
The law is there to show the people what's going on.
We have a couple folks that have been waiting to ask questions.
I had a question for Mitch.
And Mitch, we've got a question for you.
Justin Kerr, McKinley Park News. I wanted to ask you about sort of where the buck stops in terms of the management of the business, both in terms of our local dispensary and up the chain if like an issue needs to be escalated. I can't help but notice that John Lowy isn't here, even though the guy is busy, still talking about in one location that's gonna, what, Melissa said, like between 10 and 20 million per year? And you don't even.
That's gross. That's,
Well, or gross, well,
the
gross.
margins are
Okay, I understand that.
extreme.
But still, that's a lot of money coming through.
How many
And
people per day?
who's like the person really in charge? Because it doesn't seem like it's John Lowy. Like, where is the community gonna go to if there is an issue? Is it gonna be the manager for the dispensary? Are you gonna have a guy within the organization? Is there a chief operating officer? Who's in charge?
It's a great question, thank you. We are a business that has 388 employees.
Okay.
John Lovey is the owner, yes. He is a lawyer by trade and a full-time lawyer. So he is the owner, but he is not the one that is actively running the business. He has hired people to actively run it. We have a hired CEO, we have a CFO, we have a COO, we have a controller. So yes, we will have regional we will have a store manager, so we'll be store level managers. Then there'll be a regional manager, and then there's also national head of retail, national head of security, and national head of operations as well. You know, the CFO.
That doesn't answer the question.
So if you, the question is if you wanted to go, if you had an issue, you could go to the manager
So that'll be the local connection. will be
and we
the-
can elevate it as needed.
You know, I have a question with regards to ownership.
Thank you.
With regards to ownership, when will you disclose all owners who have over a 5% interest in the company?
That gets disclosed as part of the special use permit application. Every applicant for a special use permit, cannabis or otherwise, has to disclose the ownership through an economic disclosure statement. So that's already on file with the city of Chicago.
And the follow-up question, was this property that you want to have a dispensary, was that purchased already? And if so, when?
It has not been purchased yet. We're working with a developer right now. We want to make sure that obviously we get through, you know, the developer's not gonna.
Question, right?
It's a fair question and why we're here. Just like you guys said, it's a done deal. It's hardly a done deal, which is why we haven't acted on buying it yet, because we need to get through all these processes. So we are working with a developer who has the property under contract. Once we get through all these processes, we will have the developer will purchase the process and lease it back to us.
When and who did you, when and what city officials have you met with already?
Brian, can you help me with this? Thank you.
We've had 2 meetings, one with Alderman Lee, and we've had a meeting with the Alderman of the 12th Ward.
And when did those meetings occur?
Alderman Lee, I think we were.
Right here.
Yeah, Alderman, we met with you about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
With the full community, with all the community players. And then in November or October, we had a preliminary meeting indicating our interest of being in the location. That's where we learned there was an issue with overlap
So,
in finding that
wait,
location.
so when you filed your application, I believe in October, you have not met with any elected officials, is that correct?
He had met with just met with the alderman there.
He's making a point that we were both appointed.
Ah, got it, okay.
No, actually, I'm not. I'm just saying, the question is, when you filed your application, did you meet with any elected officials before that?
No, sir.
And you just filed it, and then you said, I'll talk to the alder people later. Okay.
Can I ask about the timeline? You said that part of the process was to have a community meeting, which we're having now here, and then there would be a hearing. Is that the next part of the timeline? So when do you expect that to be?
So the first thing that would happen before the hearing is that we have to file a document called the findings of fact, which is just part of the application. It's part of what is reviewed by the Zoning Board of Appeals during the public hearing. After that gets filed, the Zoning Board of Appeals would review the application and the findings of fact, and if they determine that it's complete, then they would schedule a hearing. It's difficult to predict with 100% accuracy when that hearing would be, because the Zoning Board of Appeals, it depends on what other matters have already come in that are already on their docket, right? So sometimes it's about 2, maybe sometimes 3 months after we file the findings of fact. So if I had to guess, we're in February, sometime this spring.
And just out of curiosity, I'm not very familiar with zoning board of appeals. How many people sit on that?
5.
Thank you.
I have a question.
I think
What will it take for you guys? I mean, you guys are great businessmen. I'm not gonna lie. You know, you have experts, you know, everybody. I mean, it's amazing. But we don't want your business here. So please take it somewhere else. You know, we have schools, we have 5 acres here. And we have people really struggling, you know, working hard, trying to put values. We're hosting mental health workshops for moms who are working so hard. I mean, please help us. If you want to help the community, bring a center like Razzmatazz, but it will be free. That will be amazing, you know, where kids can play, can laugh. You know, we need that stuff. We don't need this. So please, what will it take for you guys? Just to-
Traffic study from KLOA before he needs to go home?
So we're in
Sure.
the process of forming the traffic study. So first of all, sir, they do pay for the study, but it does go through the city and it's reviewed by CDOT. We do
Yeah,
this all the
yeah,
time.
I get that, but in legal terms, they call that a hired gun.
It's not a hired gun, and I take offense to that personally. Okay, we do this all the time.
So,
We go
when
through.
you did the study, did you sit down here and look at the traffic, how bad
Yes.
it was?
Can I speak, sir? And
Well, I mean,
tell
yeah,
you all
you
this?
can go ahead,
Yes,
but
sir.
tell
We
the
go,
truth.
we go out and do
Okay,
traffic
tell the
counts.
truth.
Okay, we do the traffic counts. What you gotta know is a dispensary is like any other retail development. It generates traffic like other retail developments. And in fact, it would generate less traffic than many uses that could go in here by right. You could get a restaurant in here. You could get a 7-Eleven in here. That's gonna bring traffic in all the time. The other thing you need to know is the volume of traffic is distributed throughout the day. The facility doesn't even open till 9 o'clock, so it's not generating traffic during that morning peak hour. It ramps up through the day, closes at 9 o'clock. Given your location, a big corner with 2 bus lines, the neighborhood, we expect a portion of the traffic to use alternative modes of transportation.
How many
Coming on the
parking
bus.
spots that they're building
Please,
here?
sir, please.
No, how many parking spots that they're
I'm
building here?
gonna give you mine, and then I'll answer all your questions, okay? Is that fair?
No, because you're not telling the truth. You didn't come. to
17
see-
parking spaces.
No, there's 23
It's only-
parking.
it's only-
23.
Sir, please, you've been talking all night, can I just say what I
That's what I
have to say?
came for. That's what I came here.
And that's
To
all,
fight for my neighborhood.
Gotta listen and then talk.
there's 23 spaces. Can I answer any other questions?
No, go ahead.
I have a question
Okay, please.
for our aldermen, not as politicians, but as members of the community. How do you feel about this cannabis dispensary into the neighborhood?
Yeah, so first things first, I guess I want to address to whoever said, that this is a done deal. It's not. It's not by any means of the imagination a done deal. And I say that both having worked for the city beforehand, being familiar with the zoning board of appeals, and for the record, as city council members, we do not vote to approve this.
Right, I'm saying,
Right.
not as a
How do
politician,
you
how do
feel?
you feel as a person, as a member of the community?
So one, I do live here in the ward, right? So I live over in front of McKinley Park. 2, I'm trained not to immediately jump to connection, to like the immediate thoughts. Because I had those concerns too, right? When we think of, marijuana or weed or pot, whatever you want to call it, you think of the kids in high school who ditched class, came back smelling funny, whatever you want to call it. On the other hand, I've also seen that much like other businesses, whether that's a Target or a Starbucks or, a small business, this is pricey. You don't go to the Apple store and expect to pay like $20. Go to the Apple store because you're gonna spend some money. So I see that. On the other hand, I live in this community, so I'll be very honest, my mind is not decided. I am going with what the community feels. And this will not be the only community meeting and the only input that I will be taking. So I ask voters or residents, not just voters, but residents, when I'm knocking on doors. And if they have their opinions that they tell me, I take that into account. Like, I keep track of that. There's negatives and there's positives. And I mean, I see the negatives. On the other hand, I have a family member who, has stage 3 breast cancer. And one of the only forms of relief that she's finding is because of cannabis tincture.
That's good.
She had,
So if the majority of the community votes against it, will you support us?
I'm not the one who votes on this. If the community is not a fan of it, then that's what the ZBA needs to hear.
I have a question, and this is for the audience. Is there anybody in this room that is in favor of this dispensary?
I am, because this will bring retail to this corner that has not had retail for a long time.
All right, so we have one person, is that?
No, so I,
Let me finish
all
my
right,
question.
sure, yeah.
So we have 2 people out of an enormous room, right? Now, the question is to the developers, would you, sir, or developers, honor and respect the opinion of the community and not have your dispensary in this location?
Well, let's address that, because we've done a lot of meetings in a lot of different communities, both within Chicago and in suburban Chicagoland. And as is the case for almost any kind of development, the people who are opposed to it are much more likely to come to a meeting than the people who support it. And although we can tell that many of you here do not support the dispensary, I'm not sure that this group represents the totality of the community. In many cases, there are people who support dispensaries who are concerned about coming to meetings like this and speaking out because they don't want to be pressured or admonished by their neighbors. So we appreciate your feedback, and we take it to heart, but we also know that there are people in the community who would support a dispensary here.
You know, I was gonna say, one of the first stories that I wrote in 2016, I published in the McKinley Park News, it was about an open-air drug market run by the Latin Counts on South Honore Street, right by Pershing. And all the middle school kids from Evergreen would walk there in their uniforms every day and buy all the pot that they wanted, right? You know, I think that the legal regime might have a role in removing, cutting out the legs of that criminal aspect.
That's true.
And, you know, I think that there are some positives to it. I think this is a vacant lot. It's been vacant for years and years. And, you know, hey, we can talk all we want about a free center or other types of development, but nobody else has ponied it up. Nobody else has bought the property or fixed it up or put the money together to make it happen.
And we talked
I mean,
about.
I understand the concerns as well, but I think that there's, you know, a balance to it. And I see economic development potential too. You know, it's not like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's like, you know, people go in and they grab their stuff and they go home. So that's why I feel personally the way that I do. I report on it neutrally, but, you know, and it's very disingenuous. I don't know where Freud went, but don't put words in my mouth, dude. You know?
I'm Anthony from the McKinley Park Development Council. I had one quick question that was kind of a theme from some of the comments we were getting on our live stream. One of those, could you reiterate, I think you were presenting on the hiring model.
That is
Could you Could you reiterate, when you hire from the community, does that mean, you know, the managers of the store, supervisors, et cetera? Can you just reiterate again how you hire folks from the community? And I have one more follow-up.
Please. That's our biggest push. We want to be integrated into the community. We want our employees to be able to be from the community and to be members of the community. So, as I said, we will hire around 22 employees that are going to be working right here. These employees are going to be paid really good wages. They're going to have great jobs. They're going to have health benefits, paid vacation, you know, maternity benefits. We're an excellent company to work for. I'm just an employee. I love working for the company. It is a great place to work. In addition, how are we going to find these people locally? We're going to work with the aldermen. We're going to have ask the aldermen what sort of job boards and job fairs we could have in their wards. We are going to have a job fair at the property itself. We want people to understand what their commute will be like when they go back and forth from work. So we're going to allow them to interview at the place where they will be hired. As I said, we're going to go out and walk through the neighborhood, and if we see like a local message board on a local grocery store, we're going to pin it up there with little tear-off sheets with the phone number at the bottom so that we really attract your local people.
in addition, obviously, advertising in the newspaper and all the local news.
How many jobs do you expect to create short and long
20
term?
22 jobs. Oh, construction jobs, that's a good question. I am not, I don't know how many people they bring to construction crews, so.
Do you know salary ranges for the 22 jobs?
For the 22 jobs that are our full-time employees, you know, after the construction's done, the range, I'm not so, I can tell you the average salary in our company is $60,000. And there's a ton of upward mobility to move into management positions, or if you don't like it here, to move to another one of our dispensaries.
Follow up to that, broader, in terms of your company's structure. I think we all know the history about the war on drugs, and how that has decimated poor communities across the country, poor communities predominantly being made up of people of color. How is your company representative of, you know, representing those communities that have been so disproportionately affected by the war on drugs?
I can't thank you enough for giving me the segue to talk about that. Justice Cannabis, as I said at the beginning, is founded by civil rights attorneys. Most of you perhaps have heard about Officer Berg, who was planting cannabis at the Robert Taylor homes for years and ended up with, you know, 100 people or so or whatever that got wrongfully convicted. It was John Lovey. It was the founder of the company, Burge. Excuse my mispronunciation. It was John Lovey that actually had the largest exoneration in Cook County history. With one fall of the gavel, all the people that were wrongly convicted under the Sheriff Burge controversy were freed as a result of the founder of Justice Cannabis. We actively hire minorities. That is what we do. That's what we're founded on. That is what our mission statement is. If you met John Lovey, for being such a successful attorney, you're talking about a guy in gym shoes, jeans with a flip phone that drives a beat up old car, that all he wants to do is help people. And that's why he founded, to be honest, that's why we founded Justice Cannabis, because that's his mission statement. He goes around and helps people. If you Google John Lovey, you will see that that's all he does, is help the people that have been wrongfully convicted, or that have been unfortunately might have been on the wrong side of a police baton for the wrong reason. And that's John's whole commitment to the community and to his job, and he puts that into everything he does.
Specifically,
so thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah. But a little bit more specifically, those who are, you know, the capital investors, the capital recipients of, you know, the profits that you own, those who own the land where you're growing, how is that makeup? Talking about folks who, you know, are you know, directly, you know, receiving most of the profitability that the company may or may not have.
Thank you. So these are social equity licenses. So that's how the whole latest round of 185 licenses that the city has issued right now was based on, is social equity in ownership. So those folks, that is, you know, that's by law what we're doing here. So those folks are getting ownership in a lot of Justice Cannabis facilities, you know, that's how we're qualifying for these licenses. This particular license is one that was granted by the state of Illinois to Justice Cannabis Corporate because of our commitment to the having employees that meet those requirements. Very few of the companies that have applied, in fact, I think we are one of the only ones that corporately received a social equity license because we had enough employees that qualified that work in our company that meet those underserved, work and live in those underserved, not work, live in those underserved areas. So thank you again. Great questions.
You know, I have a question. Who is the developer for the project?
Who is the
developer for the structure?
So it's we're working with a private individual that is going to be purchasing the property and leasing it back to us. It's not like a named developer. It's a small individual. So, you know.
So I have a question. Are there instances where you file the application and you get rejected, denied? How many instances are there?
What do you mean?
When you file for the
It does
application for the
It can
special
happen,
permit?
yes. So the process in this round of licenses, there haven't been that many zoning board of appeals hearings yet because the applications have only started being filed in the fall and winter. And so there's not that much track record before the zoning board yet, but there have been at least one or two that
I was
were
gonna say, I think
denied.
there's been 9 applications that have been submitted. I believe 6 have been accepted and 3 have been
By you guys?
rejected.
Or by you guys?
No.
So what are the reasons that they were rejected? What's the blueprint to get the rejection?
Well, I can't give you the court. Well, so I will say.
Perhaps you can go over the.
I will say this, in the Chicago zoning ordinance, there are certain standards for the approval of a special use permit. And they have to do with land use issues such as the extent to which the proposed project will affect the use of adjacent property, the value of nearby property, and things that are related to that. And so the zoning board of appeals during the hearing will hear from the applicant, and the applicant will present evidence showing how the proposed dispensary satisfies the standards for special use. Other people, if they choose, can also appear before the zoning board of appeals and present evidence that they believe shows that the proposed dispensary does not satisfy the standards for a special use. And the zoning board then, after hearing all of the evidence, decides whether or not it believes that the application satisfies the standards. So in any case where the zoning board denies a special use permit, it's because it has found that one of those standards has not been satisfied by the evidence.
So when's the next appeal?
The hearing date for this particular application has not been set yet. We think it'll be at some point during this spring.
How can we get those information, like follow with it?
When the hearing is scheduled, there will be a notice mailed, I think, to everybody within 250 feet. Otherwise, people. Well, that is the.
Like,
Please do.
So
400 feet away.
this is just for the 12th ward. I am more than happy to provide notice to the community. I'm more than happy to provide documents if people want to read it. All I would ask is that you either come to the office or give me an email, and I will send what is published and what is, presented at the zoning board of appeals. I'm happy to give
Can
you
you
a
make
copy.
that all available online so anyone can look at it?
And I will, so for the 11th warders or anybody who subscribes to my newsletter, all of this has been posted, right? So I know the notification went out to 250 feet. We went the extra step to publish those in our newsletters and to push it out. Both Alderwoman Abarca and I did. And to your question, I'm happy to publish those standards. I mean, you can search for it on the zoning board of appeals. It's all public information. We'll go through and we'll pull it together so that you can see what those standards are. We want this to be a transparent process. Like, again, we're here to listen to the community and to all of the concerns that people have.
Do you have access to the full text of the application, and can you put that online if you do?
I don't believe that we get a full copy
That
of
goes
the
to the ZBA.
application.
It's
The zoning
By FOIA.
the zoning board
but
would have
if
it.
you guys would be kind enough to share it, I think that'd be a valuable thing for the community.
I have a question.
We can look into that, yeah.
I have a question for the alderwoman. This is on behalf of my sister-in-law. There's rumors that there's gonna be a rehab center opening on 36th Kent, where the old Our Lady of Good Counsel was, the church. So she's asking how come they're planning on opening a rehab center while a few blocks away, they're planning on opening Cannabis.
There's no connection. We were not aware of that.
So I will give you the information that I have. The property on Hermitage, as many of you know, was once the Our Lady of Good Counsel Church. There's 3 separate buildings. The Archdiocese, which oversees the church buildings, sold that to Pilsen Wellness Health Center. Now, Pilsen Wellness Health Center, to my knowledge, is a health center, so they provide medical services, one of which is substance treatment. But I'm in the process of meeting with the executive director so that I can give you an idea of what percentage, or how often that's gonna be happening. There are other Pilsen Wellness Centers in the 12th Ward. So if you know where 38th Street and Campbell are, that's a Pilsen Wellness Center. That was a private contract, that was a private deal. I don't think they know who they are, I don't think.
There's no connection.
Yeah, so, I mentioned this to, the community meeting that was at the McKinley Park Civic Association. The Archdiocese can sell it to whoever they want.
Yeah, but they don't have to go through you in order to get the permits to open the clinic there?
Not if it's zoned properly for the use that Pilsen Wellness wants to use it
But
for.
that's between the neighborhood, there's not like an avenue where, it's not commercial.
It's like, what is gonna be the next business that is gonna be of the same? Because usually, on those places like, the wellness center, we used to live around one of those, and usually, they have people fighting, prostitution, everything around.
Medical clinic?
In a medical,
Not inside,
Not
outside.
outside a medical clinic?
Well,
Yeah.
this meeting is to talk about the dispensary.
I'm happy to
specialties.
talk to you about that afterwards, but I guess lo más fácil para decírselos es que si yo tengo una propiedad y se lo quiero vender a una persona, se lo puedo vender.
Pero los permisos los tienen que aprobar la ciudad o
Sí,
qué?
los permisos tienen que aprobarla.
¿Y ya los aprobó?
No me han pedido,
¿Ni
no han,
Cárdenas los aprobó?
no. Ese es los médicos de allí,
Porque no lo pueden abrir nada más por abrirlo, ¿sí? Tienen que tener permiso.
tienen que tener permisos, pero no necesariamente tienen que estar aprobados por el concejal. Si yo quiero abrir un negocio aquí y quería abrir otro negocio así de pizza, no necesito ir con la concejal para pedirle permiso, ni le tengo que informar, nomás voy con la ciudad, saco mi licencia y ya me pongo a vender mi pizza. Es igual, muchas veces, no voy a decir que esto es 100% lo que pasó, pero normalmente, si una corporación así grande quiere comprar algo de una propiedad, no lo van a hacer al menos que ellos estén seguros que sí pueden hacer lo que quieren hacer. Y es porque ya está, el zoning ya está.
Pero no le tienen que avisar a uno.
Por ley, no. Para mí es incorrecto. No deben de hacer así porque no se ven bien como vecinos que nomás van a entrar a la comunidad y ni nos dan notificación, no nos dicen nada. Pero por ley no les tienen que decir. Es como si yo te vendo mi casa. Yo no le tengo que decir a mi vecina que le voy a vender mi casa. Yo nomás te la vendo.
No, pero no estamos hablando de una casa. Estamos
No,
hablando de
sí,
un business.
pero por el zoning, no, ciertos tipos de zoning, si son los mismos usos, no tienen que...
Aunque esté adentro de... Esa no está en una avenida.
Aunque esté... Pero si quiere hablar conmigo después de eso, se lo explico.
Si me hace favor, sí.
Thank you, Alderman. This meeting is really about a different topic, right? And they're not related. We had no idea about that.